Why no country uses purple on their flag? Look at this. Red, blue, green, yellow, white, black. Now think about it. Have you ever seen a country's flag with purple on it? Out of 195 countries on Earth, not a single one has purple as a main color on their flag. And only two, just two, have even a tiny speck of it. That's strange, right? Purple is everywhere. It's in rainbows. It's royal. It's on candy wrappers and sports jerseys. So why did the entire world quietly ignore this color? The answer involves sea snails, ancient empires, crushing costs, and a teenager who accidentally changed everything while trying to cure malaria. This is the story of how purple became the most restricted color in history. Part 1. The Purple Problem. Let's start with what we are looking at. When you scan national flags, certain colors dominate. Red appears on roughly 3/4 of all flags. Blue shows up in about half. White, green, yellow, black, they're common. Purple? Almost nowhere. Nicaragua has a small rainbow in its coat of arms that includes a violet stripe. Dominica features a Cicero parrot with purple feathers. That's the full list. And even those are small details, not the main field of the flag. To understand why, you have to forget modern paint mixing. Today, making purple is simple. Mix red and blue. Done. For most of human history, it wasn't simple at all. Before synthetic dyes, every color came from nature. Red could come from insects or iron-rich earth. Blue came from indigo plants. Yellow from saffron or turmeric. Green was easy. Purple was the problem. Plant-based purples were weak and unstable. They faded in sunlight. They washed out. They turned dull. If you wanted a rich purple that lasted, there was only one reliable source. It came from a sea snail. Part 2. The snail that built an empire. Meet the Murex sea snail. Species like Murex brandaris and Murex trunculus lived in the eastern Mediterranean. Inside these snails was a tiny gland that produced a pale fluid. When exposed to sunlight, that fluid shifted colors. Yellow to green to blue, and finally into a deep, vivid purple. The people who mastered this were the Phoenicians, based in what is now Lebanon. Around 1500 BCE, they built a major industry around it, especially in the city of Tyre. The dye became known as Tyrian purple. The process was brutal. You had to gather thousands of snails, crack the shells, extract a gland smaller than your fingernail, collect the fluid. To make a single gram of dye, you needed about 10,000 snails. To dye one Roman toga a deep purple, around 250,000 snails. Production sites smelled so bad they were built far from cities. Archaeologists have found huge piles of crushed shells outside ancient coastal settlements. They are still there, but the result was extraordinary. The color didn't fade. It could even grow richer over time. It was unlike anything else in the ancient world, and it was insanely expensive. In ancient Rome, Tyrian purple could cost more than gold by weight. A purple garment might equal the price of a house. That's why purple became royal. Not because of symbolism at first, but because of cost. In Rome, laws restricted who could wear it. In the Byzantine world, rulers were described as born to the purple. The color became inseparable from imperial power. Part 3. Flags and the economics of color. Now connect this to flags. Flags aren't small decorations. They're large. They're mass-produced. They're replaced often because wind and weather destroy them. If a single garment in purple was devastatingly expensive, imagine supplying an army with purple banners, or equipping fleets of ships, or flying them over government buildings year after year. It would have drained treasuries. So countries chose practical colors. Red was affordable. Blue was manageable. Yellow and green were accessible. These dyes could be made in volume. Purple was luxury. Flags were infrastructure. Over time, colors gained meaning. Red became linked to sacrifice. Blue to loyalty. Green to land or faith. Purple stayed tied to royalty and wealth. When democratic revolutions swept through the 18th and 19th centuries, many nations were trying to move away from royal symbolism. Purple was not attractive to them. Part 4. The Accidental Revolution. Everything changed in 1856. An 18-year-old chemistry student in London named William Henry Perkin was trying to synthesize quinine to treat malaria. He failed. But while cleaning a flask, he noticed a strange purple residue. Curious, he tested it on fabric. It worked. The color was vibrant. Stable. It didn't wash out. He had just invented the first synthetic dye, called Movane. Within months, he patented it and opened a factory. Purple suddenly became affordable. Queen Victoria wore the new shade. Fashion exploded with what newspapers called mauve mania. The dye industry expanded rapidly. Major chemical companies grew out of this boom. By the late 19th century, purple was no longer rare. But the flags didn't change. Part 5. The Window That Closed. Here's the timing issue. The United States flag was adopted in 1777. France's tricolour in 1794. The modern Union Jack in 1801. Many Latin American flags were created in the early 1800s. By the time synthetic purple arrived in 1856, most major national flags were already established. And flags are not easy to change. They carry memories. Wars were fought under them. Revolutions happened beneath them. People died for them. Switching colors would feel like rewriting history. New nations formed later often chose colors linked to regional identity movements, like Pan-African, Pan-Arab, or Pan-Slavic themes. Purple didn't fit those traditions. There's also a visibility issue. Purple can be harder to distinguish at a distance compared to red, white, or blue. For a symbol meant to be recognized quickly, clarity matters. So purple remained on the sidelines. Finally, the color history left behind. That's why no country uses purple as a main flag color. For thousands of years, it was too expensive. By the time it became cheap, flag traditions were already locked in. The two small exceptions, Nicaragua and Dominica, use it only in minor details. Purple was shaped by sea snails, guarded by emperors, and freed by a teenager in a small laboratory. Yet when it comes to national identity, it missed its moment. If a new country formed tomorrow, it could choose purple. Nothing is stopping it now. But flag design tends to look backward, not forward. And purple never became part of that visual language. Sometimes history turns on something tiny. In this case, a microscopic gland inside an ancient snail determined the colors of the modern world. Most people think history is shaped by kings and wars. Sometimes it's shaped by chemistry, and sometimes by pure accident. If you enjoy these deep dives into the strange logic behind everyday things, subscribe. New videos every week uncovering the stories hiding in plain sight.